12. Evan Lambert. In early 2023, a train carrying toxic chemicals derailed outside East Palestine, Ohio, near the state's border with Pennsylvania. Nearby residents were evacuated, while experts carried out a controlled burn of the hazardous materials and ensured that the environment was safe for people to return to. About a week later, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine held a news conference to provide the public with the latest updates about the situation. During the event, news cameras caught footage of police asking news station reporter Evan Lambert to stop broadcasting, and while he appeared to comply, he was arrested just moments later. In the video, two officers could be seen taking Lambert to the floor and holding him face down while they handcuffed him. One of the officers instructed the anchor to lay flat right before a bystander said, "You guys, he's a national correspondent. You cannot do this." But they did, and shortly after, Lambert asked the police to loosen his handcuffs because they hurt his wrists. They then escorted him to a law enforcement SUV. Before getting into the vehicle, Lambert could be heard saying, "It is literally my job to be there." Bystanders asked the police why they were arresting the reporter, but they didn't appear to respond. When a news anchor asked Lambert if he had anything to say, he said it's tough to do your job in America in 2023. Then an officer closed the SUV door and the vehicle drove off. The exact reasons for the arrest weren't immediately clear. Lambert was accused of being too loud during the report, but a News Nation correspondent told Inside Edition that Lambert was arrested after he cooperated with orders to stop reporting. According to a statement that the Columbiana County Sheriff's Office issued to USA Today, Lambert was charged with misdemeanor disorderly conduct and criminal trespassing. Just days later, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost announced that the state was dropping the charges due to a lack of supporting evidence. Yost further explained that in some situations, journalists can be arrested for criminal trespassing, but after reviewing the video and other evidence, he determined that the incident involving Lambert didn't qualify. He said that Lambert was lawfully present and that his behavior was consistent with the purpose of the event and his role as a reporter. Governor DeWine also called for the case to be dropped and supported the decision to dismiss the charges. 11. Anderson Cooper's Giggle Fit. Back in 2012, Anderson Cooper was tasked with reporting on Dingus Day, a Polish holiday that isn't a big deal in most of the United States with the exception of a few cities. He focused on Buffalo, New York, the country's unofficial Dingus Day capital, during his Ridiculous segment. As he discussed how the Buffalonians flock to celebrations where girls chase after and hit boys with pussy willow branches, he began to laugh uncontrollably. Cooper erupted into a seemingly endless giggle fit as he struggled to regain his composure. In between laughs, he managed to utter the words, "It's so stupid. It's really so stupid." He was referring to his inability to stop laughing, but some viewers, from Buffalo of course, mistakenly thought the anchor was calling Dingus Day stupid, and they were more than a little offended by it. So much so, in fact, that Cooper ended up apologizing for his words via Twitter, where he clarified that he was describing his giggle fit as stupid, not the holiday itself. He further wrote that Dingus Day sounds like a fun celebration, and that he's genuinely sorry if he offended anyone. However, Cooper apparently wasn't overly tempted to experience the holiday firsthand, because he turned down an invitation to visit the City of Good Neighbors and join in on the festivities the following year. Upset by the rejection, Buffalo's Dingus Day event organizer, Eddie Dobskowitz, unveiled a huge photo of Cooper wearing a crown at City Hall and named him the first ever Pussy Willow Prince. Dobskowitz also launched a website, partypoopercooper.com, which has since been taken down. But the citizens of Buffalo certainly got their point across, as they always do when something or someone ruffles their feathers. 10. The Balloon Boy Hoax. On October 15, 2009, news stations in and around Fort Collins, Colorado were flooded with reports that the young son of Richard and Mayumi Heen, a little boy named Falcon, was trapped in a homemade helium balloon that looked like a flying saucer. It was a terrifying thought, considering the fact that the balloon reached altitudes as high as 7,000 feet during its 90-minute flight. Local authorities and members of the National Guard chased after the balloon for over an hour, covering a distance of roughly 50 miles. By the time it finally landed 12 miles outside Denver National Airport, law enforcement had received an influx of reports that an object had been seen falling out of the balloon. A ground search ensued, only for police to find the little boy hiding out in the attic of his home later that day. As it turned out, he'd been there the entire time. Later that evening, a Larry King Live reporter asked Falcon why he was hiding. He responded that he did it because his parents instructed him to, for the show. The little boy's honesty quickly gave rise to widespread suspicions that his parents had planned the entire harrowing ordeal as a hoax. This prompted law enforcement to investigate, after initially saying that they had no reason to believe the incident was an elaborate performance. Investigators concluded that Richard and Mayumi Haynes had staged the incident as a publicity stunt. According to an affidavit, they planned it as far as 2 weeks in advance and coached their children on what lies to tell to reporters and police. You may be wondering, what was their motive? In the words of the affidavit, they did it in order to make the family more marketable for future media interests. Richard pleaded guilty to one felony count of attempting to influence a public servant and was ordered to serve 90 days behind bars and pay $36,000 in restitution. Mayumi was sentenced to 20 days of weekend jail as a result. 9. Jacket Gate. On what started out as a normal day in 2017, Australian journalist Amber Sherlock was approached by a colleague who showed her leaked footage of a tense exchange she'd recently gotten into with her co-host Julie Snook. In the clip, Sherlock could be heard ordering Snook to put on a jacket because both the women had worn white that day. She also got snippy with a third female co-host who was also wearing white. The interaction happened off-air but was still caught on video. Shortly after the standoff, the camera went live, and all three women smiled and delivered their segments as usual, giving off no clues that anything was wrong behind the scenes. By the time Sherlock saw the clip, it had already gone viral. Viewers were shocked by the diva-like meltdown, which they nicknamed Jacket Gate. It was the hottest topic of discussion across the country for several days, and even made news headlines overseas, earning itself a spot on Jimmy Kimmel's late-night show in the US. Sherlock told Stella that at first she thought the whole thing was silly. But as she saw herself rise to the status of a viral villain and the hateful comments began to accumulate, she understood how serious the situation had become. She said she wasn't just mortified at her behavior, but devastated, especially when she thought about how the backlash and the negative publicity could affect her family. In Sherlock's words, "I'm only human at the end of the day, and people forget that." She further explained that on the day of the ill-fated exchange, she'd taken her kids to the beach before work. It was stifling hot out, and like any other mum, Sherlock was tired and exasperated by the time her workday began. The fact that she and her two co-hosts all wore white was merely a coincidence. But one thing was clear. Someone at the station deliberately leaked the footage, and according to a station spokesperson, the individual was dealt with internally. 8. Julie Chin. While delivering a report about NASA's cancelled Artemis 1 launch for Tulsa-based NBC affiliate KJRH one day in 2022, anchorwoman Julie Chin suddenly began to stutter. She initially tried to continue reading off her teleprompter, but she found herself unable to keep going. A bewildered Chin apologized to her viewers, saying that something was going on with her that morning. She cut her own broadcast short and called on the station's meteorologist, Annie Brown, to go ahead with her report. As Brown began her segment, Chin could be heard apologizing to her co-workers for going off script. When she didn't return to the screen after Brown finished the weather report, viewers knew something serious must have gone wrong for Chin. They would later learn that the ailing anchorwoman had experienced a serious medical emergency, prompting her colleagues to dial 911. She was subsequently rushed to the hospital. Chin explained in a Facebook post after the fact that she was okay, but that the doctor who treated her believed that she'd suffered the beginnings of a stroke, but not a full stroke. She said that she felt fine at the start of the broadcast, but that her condition deteriorated suddenly and rapidly. First, she lost vision in one eye, and then her hand and arm went numb. Thankfully, all Chin's medical tests turned out well, and although she would need some follow-up testing and care, she received a clean bill of health, along with the go-ahead to return to work in a few days. She thanked her colleagues for helping her through the ordeal and getting her the care she needed, and she thanked her viewers who expressed their concerns for her well-being. 7. Savannah Guthrie. Fans of the Today Show were mystified in early 2023 by the unexplained absence of one of the hosts, 58-year-old Hoda Kotb. It would later be revealed that Kotb took time off work due to an unexpected medical scare that her daughter experienced. But people were still wondering what was wrong when Kotb's co-host, 51-year-old Savannah Guthrie, abruptly walked off set in the middle of the show one day, adding another perplexing mystery to the situation. Another co-host on the show, Chanel Jones, later told viewers that Guthrie wasn't feeling well that day, so she took a COVID-19 test. When she left without saying anything, it was because she just found out that the test was positive. So Guthrie rushed home to get some much-needed rest. Despite being vaccinated against COVID-19, it wasn't her first time being positive. In fact, she tested positive twice, in January and May of 2022. During one of her previous bouts of isolation, she reported that she felt like she had a cold, perhaps owing to the mitigating effects of the vaccine. She returned to the show about a week after her most recent diagnosis, and her fans were glad to see her. In the meantime, Kotb returned to the air. She reported that her daughter was doing much better after spending several days in the intensive care unit. 6. Nathan Reeves. In early 2023, 20-year-old podcaster Nathan Reeves interviewed a 22-year-old photographer named Alexi Reyes at a coffee shop in Houston. The pair were sitting with their backs to the establishment's front window and were about to finish the hour-long segment when an SUV barreled through the glass, pushing them both into the counter in front of them. Although podcasts generally come in the form of audio recordings, there just happened to be a video camera rolling that day, and it captured footage of the terrifying incident. As the vehicle slowly reversed away from the building, Reeves and Reyes looked on in what appeared to be complete shock. Thankfully, they managed to narrowly avoid physical injury. After overcoming their initial astonishment, the duo realized that the crash was captured on camera. They watched the footage, which showed their SUV colliding with another vehicle at an intersection before slamming into the cafe, and decided to publish it on social media. Not surprisingly, the footage went viral. In a subsequent interview, Reeves joked about how the incident actually garnered more exposure than he's used to getting as an amateur content creator. It happened during his 5th podcast episode, which features young artists in the Houston area. Reeves chose the coffee shop because he thought it made a nice backdrop, but luck apparently had other things in mind that day, and because of it, he quickly gained hundreds of new YouTube subscribers. The driver was also uninjured, but was ticketed for running a red light. Alyssa Villa, who was driving the vehicle that the SUV hit, told the Washington Post that even though it was her first car crash and police reassured her that it wasn't her fault, she wasn't exactly happy about it being all over the internet. She said that she was also in shock after the ordeal. In addition to the bonus of gaining social media exposure that could help advance his career, Reeves said that he hopes the clip reminds people to pay attention while they're driving, so they don't end up in these types of avoidable crashes. 5. Bizarre broadcast interruption. Andrew Gardner appeared regularly in news broadcasts throughout parts of southern England as an anchor for Southern Television's Independent Television News (ITN) network. During his regular report on November 26, 1977, the picture started to wobble and the audio was replaced by a deep buzzing sound. For the next 6 minutes, a distorted voice delivered a strange message, claiming to be a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command named Vrillon. The signal hijacker mostly talked about how humans have to give up their evil ways and embrace a more peaceful existence, and warned the public that their time to heed the advice was running short. When the rambling was over, the network returned to normal. The transmitter that was used to broadcast the news program was particularly susceptible to being intruded by an overwhelming transmission, but authorities claimed that pulling the interruption off still would have required a lot of technical know-how. Nobody ever came forward and admitted to being responsible for the incident, which remains unsolved to this day. 4. Roxanna Vancier. 25-year-old weather reporter Roxanna Vancier was delivering a forecast on a Romanian news channel in early 2016 when she began running in place and doing jumping jacks to express her enthusiasm about the nice weather that meteorologists were predicting. However, she got a little too excited, and as she bounced around, her breasts popped right out of her shirt for the whole world to see. It was nothing new for the attractive anchorwoman to appear on air in a skimpy shirt, but it was certainly the first time she'd experienced this type of wardrobe malfunction. In fact, Vancier seemed just as surprised as her viewers likely were, and she also seemed mortified when she finally realized what had happened based on the shocked expressions of her colleagues. But some viewers speculated that the mishap was a deliberate attempt to increase the network's ratings. Either way, it certainly wasn't the first or last time people criticized a reporter for showing too much. 3. Jessica Robb. Canadian news anchor Jessica Robb was in the middle of delivering a live report on CTV's 6 o'clock evening news in early 2023 when she began to appear faint. She looked unsteady on her feet and began to repeat herself. Her speech became slurred, and she apologetically told the host, Nariman Issa, that she wasn't feeling well. The station ended her report early and cut to Issa, who reassured viewers that Robb wasn't alone and had the help and support she needed. Later that evening, Robb and CTV tweeted that she was recovering from whatever had happened to her, but the news anchor made her tweets private shortly thereafter. In a statement to the Daily Mail, she said that she experienced a very personal and vulnerable moment on air. The tweet made by CTV stated that Robb felt ill and was feeling better and resting. In her own tweet, Robb wrote that she was feeling okay. She thanked the cameraman for coming to her aid, and she thanked Issa for handling the emergency in a professional manner. Robb also thanked members of the public who expressed their concern for her well-being. It's unclear why she made her tweets private, although she did mention that she received a lot of hatred and harassment, in her words, which were tied to false theories about the reason for the incident. She also clarified that the ordeal was in no way tied to the COVID-19 vaccine. 2. Corey Sidaway. Canadian news watchers became immersed in a deep and divisive debate in 2020 when a viewer criticized Czech anchor Corey Sidaway for dressing in a way that they believed was too revealing. In an email, the anonymous complainer told Sidaway to dress more appropriately, and they signed their name as the Vancouver Island Cleavage Patrol. The rude note contained 2 photos, one which showed a screenshot of Sidaway and a headless image of a woman who was obviously not Sidaway in an extremely low-cut shirt. According to the writer, the photo on the right side of the screen represented what viewers actually see when they watch the anchorwoman segment on TV. Instead of heeding the individual's not-so-subtle suggestion to cover up more, Sidaway posted the disparaging message and photo on Twitter. She called the so-called computer warrior out for trying to reduce women into an outfit or body part, and reassured the public that today's women don't stand for this type of harassment. Sidaway also shared the critical email on Instagram, along with a caption about how this type of treatment unfortunately happens quite often to women who work in the public eye. She classified the message as one of the worst examples of it she'd experienced so far in her own career. While some people definitely agreed with the anonymous individual who complained, an overwhelming number of people rallied behind Sidaway, including fellow news anchors and reporters, as well as members of the public. Afterward, Sidaway thanked her supporters for the flood of encouragement she received and said that it made her feel less alone. 1. John Brown. Let's face it, it's not unusual for someone to get sick of hearing about the Kardashians. But news anchors are expected to uphold a certain level of professionalism, and an Orlando-based reporter named John Brown shocked viewers in 2015 when his frustration over the Kardashians caused him to throw professionalism right out the window. The incident happened during Brown's morning segment on the Fox 35 network, which he started off by saying that he was having a good Friday. He then went on to tell his co-host Amy that he refused to talk about the Kardashians and that she was on her own for the day, saying, "I've had enough Kardashians. I can't take any more Kardashian stories on this show." Afterward, Brown walked off the set and continued ranting off camera, saying to whoever would listen that he was sick of this family and that it's a non-story. Later that day, he posted the video on Facebook, along with an apology and an explanation stating that he lost his mind a bit and that his tantrum was partially in jest. However, he further noted that he felt better after getting it all out. Would you rather go viral for screaming at your partner in the background of a serious news broadcast, or deliver a lengthy public speech with the camera zoomed in on your face, completely unaware that your lunch is stuck between your teeth? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.